Prejudice. Are you infected? Prejudice is like a virus. It harms its victims, and people can be unaware that they are infected. People can be prejudiced not only toward those of another nationality, race, tribe, or language, but also toward those of a different religion, gender, or social class. Some judge people negatively based on their age, education, disabilities, or physical appearance, yet they still feel that they are not prejudiced. Could you be infected with prejudice? Most of us can recognize prejudice in others, but it may be difficult to see prejudice in ourselves. The truth is that all of us are prejudiced to some degree. When people think about a group negatively and then meet someone from that group, they will treat that person differently and honestly not know that they did it. Many governments pass laws to fight racism and other forms of prejudice. Nevertheless, prejudice continues. Why? Because those laws only address a person's actions. They cannot control a person's thoughts and feelings, and prejudice starts in a person's mind and heart. Is the fight against prejudice then a losing battle? Does a cure for prejudice exist? Prejudice is often based on misinformation. Many people wrongly conclude that everyone who has a disability is sad or bitter. People who believe myths such as those may point to examples or alleged evidence that seems to confirm their bias, and they think that anyone who disagrees with them is ignorant. A person without knowledge is not good. What does it mean? Without knowing the facts, we make bad decisions. If we believe myths rather than facts, we will misjudge people. Does the Bible promote prejudice? Some claim that the Bible promotes prejudice. But what does the Bible actually say? All humans are related. God made out of one man every nation of men. God is impartial. God is not partial, but in every nation the man who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. God focuses on the inner person, not the outward appearance. Mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah sees into the heart. How knowing the facts helps. If we know the facts about people, we are less likely to believe common but false assumptions about them. And once we learn that we have not been told the truth about a particular group, we may be more likely to question assumptions that we have made about other groups of people. I know that prejudicial feelings can grow into anger and hatred. What you can do. Remember that sweeping generalizations about groups of people do not apply to all individuals of that group. Acknowledge that the information you have about others may be limited. Try to get the facts from a reliable source. Show empathy. If we focus too much on how different others are from us, we could conclude that such differences are flaws or defects. In effect, we would be regarding as inferior those who are different. Once we develop this negative view of others, it becomes difficult to show empathy. Our lack of empathy can be a symptom of a deeper problem: prejudice. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Show empathy. Empathy is the ability to put oneself in another's place and feel what he feels. How empathy helps. When we empathize with someone, we become aware of just how similar we are to that person. We realize that he or she may feel the way we feel and may react the way we react. Empathy helps us to see that all people, no matter what their background may be, are part of the human family. The more we focus on how similar they are to us, the less likely we will be to judge them negatively. Empathy will also help us to respect others. If we strive to understand another person's struggles, we are more likely to empathize rather than to criticize. What you can do. Try to see beyond the differences and find similarities between you and people from a group you may view negatively. For example, imagine how they feel when eating a meal with their family, finishing a hard day's work, spending time with friends, listening to their favorite music. Next, try to imagine yourself in their situation. Ask yourself, how would I react if someone made me feel worthless? How would I feel if others judged me before they even got to know me? If I were part of their group, how would I like others to treat me? In the past, I thought that deaf people were strange, intellectually impaired and overly sensitive, so I avoided them. However, I did not think that my viewpoint was prejudiced, since it did not seem to harm anyone. Feeling empathy for deaf people helped me to counteract the prejudice I had. For example, I had the impression that the deaf were intellectually handicapped because when I spoke to them, they would look at me blankly. So I tried to imagine how I would feel if I could not hear someone talking to me. Of course I would have a blank face. Even if I had a hearing aid, my facial expression might seem to indicate I am struggling to understand, when really I would be struggling to hear. As I put myself in a deaf person's shoes, my prejudices evaporated into thin air. Expand your circle of friends. If we isolate ourselves from people whom we view negatively, we may reinforce our prejudices. And if we limit our friends to people who are like us, we may tend to think that our way is the only acceptable way of thinking, feeling, and acting. Open your hearts wide. What does it mean? Our heart can refer to our emotions and affections. If we have affection only for people who are similar to us, our heart becomes closed or cramped. To avoid that problem, we must be willing to befriend those who are different from us. How expanding our circle of friends helps. When we get to know others personally, we begin to understand why they do things differently. And as we grow closer to them, we start to see them as part of our own group. We come to value them more, and their joys and sorrows become our own. Once you befriend people from a different culture, you learn not to stereotype them, and you grow to love them and value them as individuals. Find opportunities to speak with people who are from a country, ethnicity, or language group different from yours. You could ask them to tell you a little about themselves. Invite them to join you for a meal. Listen to their stories and find out what is important to them. If you try to understand how their experiences have shaped their personality, you may develop a positive attitude toward people from their group.